The Israeli military has launched more attacks across southern Lebanon despite a US-brokered ceasefire. Lebanon's army says that one of its soldiers and his brother were killed by an Israeli attack in Bint Jebel. Earlier, Israeli fighter jets attacked multiple towns, hitting several homes. 5 members of one family were killed when a strike destroyed a residential building in the south. Israeli forces are continuing to violate the truce on a daily basis. Hezbollah has responded by firing rockets into Israel and the areas in southern Lebanon occupied by Israeli forces. We'll get Israel's reaction shortly from Al Jazeera's Noor Odeh, who is near Ramallah. But first, let's speak to Al Jazeera's Heidi Pett, who's in Tyre in southern Lebanon. Heidi, what do these latest strikes mean for people living there in the south?
I mean, it's had a devastating effect on civilians here in the south. We have had updating rolling death tolls from multiple strikes over the course of Tuesday and into Wednesday morning, which targeted civilians. Just a couple of hours ago, there was a funeral held here in the city of Tyre for 2 women and a 3-year-old girl who were killed in airstrikes in villages not far from here. And that is just one incident in the town of Jebshit. There was also a family, 5 members of one family killed. So that is the direct impact on civilians who are killed and wounded in these Israeli airstrikes. But the net effect as well is another wave of displacement here in southern Lebanon. The Israeli military has gone back to issuing forced displacement orders to specific towns and villages. But even for people whose village is not subject to one of these orders, what has happened is we have gone back to a state of danger and unpredictability across southern Lebanon. Many of these strikes come without any warning at all, and so people have once again left their homes and villages. They have gone back to displacement shelters, and the feeling here in southern Lebanon is a return to war, even though we are ostensibly in the middle of an extended ceasefire.
Heidi, let's bring in Noor Odeh, who's in Ramallah, in the occupied West Bank. Noor, what is Israel saying about these attacks?
Well, Adrian, as far as Israel is concerned, all of its airstrikes and the demolition of Lebanese homes and villages in the occupied area of southern Lebanon are all in line with its interpretation of the ceasefire and what kind of activities Israel is allowed to conduct during such a ceasefire. It feels that it has the backing of the U.S. to attack Hezbollah, to prevent even the planning, allegedly, of any attacks, and to pursue all personnel belonging to the armed group. Now, in the meantime, the way that Hezbollah has been reacting and acting in the occupied area of southern Lebanon is viewed by Israel as a grave violation of the ceasefire and escalation. We've even heard from the Israeli foreign minister saying that Hezbollah is violating the ceasefire. It is also violating the will of the Lebanese government. And that gives you an idea of the fact that Israel is determined to continue this escalatory trend without declaring a breach or an end of the ceasefire, because that is a red line that Washington has basically drawn and that the Israeli government feels obliged to respect.
All right. Now, Heidi, in southern Lebanon, where does all of this leave the US-brokered truce?
I mean, as we were just hearing from Ramallah, it is very much a ceasefire in name only here in southern Lebanon. We had the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over the weekend stating that his military enjoys full activity here in southern Lebanon, and that certainly does seem to feel and sound to be the case. We hear warplanes overhead here constantly. We hear the sounds of demolitions. We hear the sounds of airstrikes and artillery. But in terms of the reaction from the Lebanese government, there was very strong condemnation by both the president and the prime minister in response to yet another double-tap attack on Tuesday, which killed 3 members of the civil defense. That's the local first responders and rescue organization. They were trying to rescue survivors from an initial airstrike. Now, the Prime Minister called that a new war crime and said that they would be using the available mechanisms to compel the Israelis to abide by the ceasefire. And then the President this morning in the presidential palace, he was meeting with the families of civilians who have been killed during this ceasefire. And again, he says that he would be, he was offering them his condolences and then pledged that he would do what he could to maintain the ceasefire. But the question is, what can the Lebanese government actually do to maintain this ceasefire? This has been the argument of Hezbollah, that they have very little leverage to compel the Israelis to abide by the ceasefire, or indeed to dictate any kind of terms that seem to allow the Israelis full military action without any real recourse by the Lebanese state.
Heidi, Noor, how is this playing out in the Israeli media?
Well, in the Israeli media, what you have are discussions of the little control that the Israeli government has over the course of events, no control in Iran, no control even about resuming war in Lebanon, which is a popular demand in Israel because the public overall feels that they had been betrayed by the Israeli government. There are also discussions or concerns in Israeli media about what the Israeli army is up to in Lebanon. Take a look.
I want to share what an officer involved in the ground operation in Lebanon told me. There are no real battles happening there. Instead, it's mostly demolition work on significant buildings, carried out more by contractors than combat troops. He questions whether taking down another house is worth a soldier's life. He also says discipline within the ranks is slipping and troubling behavior is becoming more common, including looting.
There are serious problems inside the military and in Lebanon under the current chief of staff. I've heard he's a decent man, but his actions don't really reflect that.
This isn't just on the chief of staff. A whole generation has grown up being taught that Arabs in the West Bank, Gaza and Lebanon are not human beings.
So demolitions, lootings, and basically a breakdown of order. This is of concern because the context in Israel is that public trust is highest in the army, which is taking fire. It is viewed as having its arms tied behind its back, while the Israeli political leadership, which doesn't enjoy as much trust among ordinary Israelis, also has no clear answers about how the situation in the northern border can be resolved, how the promise of disarming Hezbollah can be realistically achieved. Adrian?
Thank you both. Al Jazeera's Noor Odeh in Ramallah and Heidi Pett in southern Lebanon.